Welcome, good people. I am Mohamed Lamin Sedikan, Pan-African activist, management campaign strategist, a development worker. I'm taking you through a course, civic space, and citizens' participation as part of democracy and elections, governance in Africa. MOOC organized by AfricTivistes on behalf of Charter Project Africa. In this course, we will cover 5 modules. I'll teach you 1. Genesis of citizen movements in Africa, civic space, looking into the French-speaking countries, and as well English-speaking countries. 2. We look into the role of African citizen movement in consolidation of democratic gains or democracy. 3. We will look into citizen participation in democratization process of African countries. 4. We will look into civil society and citizen movements as key players or key actors for good governance. 5. We look into civic tech for citizen participation and possible features. Welcome on board. I hope you enjoy this course as we go through the different modules. Civic space and citizen participation, module 1, genesis of citizen movement in African civic space. We're looking into French-speaking and English-speaking countries. We can trace African resistance and citizen movement building, solidarity with anti-slave sentiments, and as well also looking into the revolt of African Americans during the slave trade. One could recall Kunta Kinte, whose root is from Gambia, and many of his kinds who have mobilized themselves to fight against slave trade or slavery. Again, these formations that have fought against slavery have been more formalized and more organized to champion and lead the cause for independence, and they become independent movements. Before and during the period of slavery or slave trade, colonization, there have been in existence, groups of, community groups that have been providing social, economical services and cultural services and activities in different countries in Africa, in different communities in Africa. And one could name them as CAFOs in the sub-region of West Africa. And some of these groups are organized based on age. Some of them are organized based on gender. Some of them are organized based on communities of interest. Some of them are organized based on issues that they relate to. And these groups, are less formal, but they have set of rules and set of structures and processes that they follow. The African independence or the African citizens' independent movements organizing, against the closed space took place in the 20th century when the wave of struggle for independence in Europe forces ruled African territories. The European forces, have captured and forcefully ruled our different communities and then named them into what they want. Some of these groups that have been resisting the colonization and have been championing the cause of the struggle for independence. One could recall the ANC of South Africa, where Nelson Mandela and others have been championing and have been putting their lives on the line for liberation. The CPP of Ghana, led by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and others. The CCM of Tanzania, led by Nyerere, and then as well SWAPO of Namibia and PAIGC of Zimbabwe. All of those and many of those independent struggle movements, struggle movements that have been there, fighters that have been there to really liberate their countries, to have independence. African territories and communities were divided among European powers between 1884 to 1885 during the Berlin Conference. The major scramble of African territories and communities at the Berlin Conference was led by Germany, but the French and the British actually captured the bigger cake of who takes what part of Africa, and they named this as the Francophonie or the Anglophone countries. It's sad that Africa was divided like a pizza between the Western powers then. African communities in 1989 started to organize themselves better, to challenge and demand for independence and build solidarity to support each other, to fight for independent or individual countries' independence. A majority of these countries that got liberated was around the 1960s, and many of which were the French, Francophonie countries, while the British-related territories gained their independence from 1961 onward. It is clear that the push for independence was very much needed, and that is why Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, under his leadership, reinforces and ignites solidarity across Africa and across Africans to advance the fight for a common cause and having a united Africa. The struggle for civic space later gave birth to what we call the Organization of African Union, or AU, which is now named as African Union or the African Union, the continental body that governs the continental governance system and the development and shape the development agenda of Africa. One could recall a statement given by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah during Ghana's independence. And he said, if Ghana is independent and the rest of Africa is not independent, then it's meaningless for Ghana's independence. This statement is a visionary statement, and it motivates the rest of Africa to fight for a common cause and unify the forces for one united Africa. And this struggle is in our hands, our generation is in our hands, for us to continue the fight, to unite Africa, to help Africans to all live in a dignified life. And we cannot do this without us working together as one common force. Good people, in this model, we've seen that we've covered the anti-slavery movements and then resistance by Africans, individually and collectively, across different parts of Africa and as well in the US. But again, some of the strong, resistant individuals who have really been championing. We've seen that we have moved into looking into the how African community have been organized in terms of different groupings, and how they have been also formalizing themselves into independent struggle movements. And in these struggle movements, we've seen how they have championed the cause of independence in different countries. But inspiration from some of the African leaders as well have been covered that have been inspiration for the unification of Africa. We've covered the process and how many countries and many Africans got inspired for the creation of the African Union. In this module, we have seen, how it's meaningless for one country to be united when the rest of Africa is not united, by some of the philosophers like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We are moving to the next module, and I welcome you to follow the next module, the role of citizens' participation. But again, to read more about this module or learn more, please sign in, click in, MOOC, and the link that is running below to sign in and then follow the course.